All right, I'm recording. I had some questions about this assessment and I wanted to show some examples. This one was saying you can take your string methods and indexing and slicing and all that good stuff and choose one of these ideas to make a function. I'm going to use this example of the first one, alternating case. Write a function that takes in a string, changes it to upper and lower. So I made two of these guys just now in class because I wanted to show that there are different ways, and then we can add a third. But here's what we got right here. We got one that's called alternating case even odd, and that has the classic for loop where you're going to have a number. Actually, there's a better way to do this later. There's a function, or not a function, but a iterator thing called enumerate, and if you enumerate through a string or whatever, then you can keep track of the number and the item at the same time, so you don't have to like do this weird range len thing. You can just say enumerate phrase and you'll go. But for now, this is fine. I didn't want to add too much fancy stuff. For I in a range, meaning if it's 10 characters, we're going to go 0 through 9. If it's even, we're going to replace it with the upper. And this whole thing, even though it looks weird, you've done it several times in the Code.hs where you like go up to the spot, put in your new guy, and then go from the rest of the spot. And we have to do that with strings because you can't just reach in and change one. You can't just say phrase bracket I equals whatever. This stuff is a math thing called modulus. You may see that in algebra where they'll say like 5 mod 2, and what that means is you're going to divide it as many times as you can and then give the remainder. So it would be like, 5 mod 2, you divide it and you get 2, but there's 1 left over. So in this case, if it's even, meaning you divide it by 2 and there's nothing left over, we're going to make it upper. If it's odd, we're going to make it lower, and we return phrase. And that does the job. It goes down the line. This is 0, it's even, upper. This is 1, it's not, lower, blah, blah, blah. But this code is pretty ugly. If you tried to read this, it would take you a minute to figure out what the heck are they doing. It looks so mathy and weird. So here's a version that does not use any numbers. It's just taking turns. It just says, okay, it's U and L, and we switch between U and L, like human players taking turns on the game or something. And then we say, if it's U, we're going to make it upper. That probably looks good as a singleton. And if it's L, we're going to make it lower. And for this one, I didn't use this weird system of like building it piece by piece every time. I just said, we'll make a new guy and we'll build that one by one corresponding to where we are. And that's a lot prettier. That's a lot nicer, IMO. And even though it's more lines, it's easier to read and understand and change. And when you run them both, they give you the same thing. But let's do another. Let's say that, hey, maybe we can make it more efficient by doing this, which is instead of going down the line and changing each one to upper or lower, what if we change the whole thing to one of those, upper or lower, and then do every other one the other way? Is that more efficient? I don't know. Probably not, but let's do it and see what happens. So let's make another function. What are we going to call this? I don't know. Lower than every other. That's incredibly long. So let's say phrase equals phrase dot lower. And right away, boom, the whole thing is lower. Let's return phrase just to make sure that works. And then we'll make the next step, which is to do the other guys. See, I don't even want to type my own name anymore. Okay. Well, hang on. That's not great because it was already all lower. Let's add in some uppers and then make sure that we're testing it the same with all the other guys. Okay, and this one squishes it all down. So now we're going to go through and do some of them upper. Let's see. Actually, I would love the enumerate thing right now, but again, I don't want to add too many different steps for you guys. So let's say if it's odd, add the uppercase. So we could do this thing. I don't want to add the whole taking turns part on this guy. Let's see what happens here. But maybe we'll combine, do a new combo of things we haven't done yet. We'll do the new phrase thing. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I kind of like, if we do new phrase, then we have to add one for the ones we're not changing. Like we have to say, oh, by the way, the lowercase ones will add a lower. So that's kind of ugly. Let's see. What if we do this? Is that enough? No, I was missing something. I don't have the I. So I can't just use find or index or something. I can't say phrase.find character, because if it has the same character more than once, then it's just going to find the first one and it'll never know where we are on the later guys. So yeah, this isn't that great. This isn't like saving us any lines or whatever from the other versions. But yeah, it does the job. I guess it is a few lines fewer than this guy, but it doesn't really help. The point is, there are lots of ways to do the job. When you have some kind of problem, some kind of task to complete, you can logically break it up in different ways, completely out of code mode, just like thinking in your mind, well, I could go down left to right, or I could go right to left, or I could change the whole thing and go and pluck in different spots. But then actually when you do the code, there are other ways to implement it. For example, the stuff like building a new phrase piece by piece, that works with some of them. It didn't quite work with this one because I would have had to add the ones I don't care about, and that would defeat the purpose of this thing, and blah, blah, blah. There's also different types of code that you might not learn yet, like the enumerate that I said we could use for this guy, or the mod to get whether it's even or odd. Maybe you wouldn't have known that. And by the way, there are other ways to test if it's even or odd. You could use a thing with dividing with double slashes does a round to the nearest integer. So you could do something like if the double slash version equals the single slash blah, 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 blah. I don't know. That would get you into trouble, but it is possible. There are always ways to get around a problem, and I wanted to show that I made 3 functions here. They all have pros and cons. This one's the shortest, but it's kind of weird. This one's the longest, but it is readable. This one is sort of in the middle, and nothing is a perfect, beautiful answer key that you need to copy. They're all just different machines that do a job.